When you were 15, you started the podcast. What made you start the podcast? What was that initial aha moment of like, hey, I wanna start making content?
I honestly didn't set out to start making content. I had a phone repair business that I started in 9th grade as a way to just make any money I possibly could. And then about 4 months ago is when everything completely changed.
What changed 4 months ago?
Yeah, good question. To me, the biggest thing was, one, I actually hated doing it.
Starting a podcast, what matters more? Is it the content? Is it the guests? Is it how you position the content? Or is it impact? Or how do you think about that? Going back to your journey, you started the pod, you pivoted. What was the turning point to starting Deal Room Media and turning this into a business?
So in January of 2024, I was like, well, one, I definitely want to help a lot of other companies and definitely just don't want to work for one business.
What's giving you the most stress right now in building the company?
Scaling the team.
What's the biggest lie young entrepreneurs tell themselves?
That they're good at what they do. Give it away for free, give it in the hook, hint at it, and then deliver on that value and don't ask for anything in return.
Hey guys, welcome back to Funds and Founders. We have Shamus on today. Shamus, I have this bit where why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Retention and attention nowadays is 30 seconds or less because everyone's behind short form. But just plug yourself. Where can folks find you? What are you working on? Then we'll get into the episode.
Yeah, I'm Shamus. I'm 19. I run a $1 million business. I run a $1 million content business.
Nice. And then you're also the host of a podcast. I want to say you're 145, 150 episodes in.
Yep.
And I just wanted to start out by saying, when you were 15, you started the podcast. What made you start the podcast? What was that initial aha moment of like, hey, I want to start making content?
Yeah, I honestly didn't set out to start making content. I had a phone repair business that I started in 9th grade as a way to just make any money I possibly could. I was broke, didn't really have a lot of money, and just wanted to find a way where I could make some more money just to like buy stupid stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
So in like 9th grade, I started this phone repair business. I went up to kids in my class who had broken iPhone screens. I went up to them, handed them my business card, and was like, hey, I saw your phone's cracked. I could probably fix that. It'll be cheaper than Apple or anybody else. Let me try. And doing that, I probably made about $1,000. So not a lot, but a good amount as like a 12 or 13-year-old. And I was like, okay, how else can I like start making more money? So I started building out the business. And then all of a sudden, March 2020, COVID hits and the entire world shuts down.
Yeah. School
shuts down. Supposed to be a 3-week thing. As we all know, it was not. And our school was very unstructured at the time where we didn't have like a lot of formal classes. I was only online doing an actual class for maybe like 2 hours every couple days. So it was pretty low lift. And I thought, okay, I have all this extra time. How else can I leverage it to kind of grow? So I decided like, hey, why don't I start a podcast to help teach other people about business and tech with the next generation? So November 2020, I buy a mic off Amazon, go in my closet, record the first episode. And 6 months in, I had like literally nobody listened. I had 8 listeners, 5 of which my family, like nobody really cared. And I was like, okay, like I got to be able to figure something else out. So I pivoted the show from what we were doing at the time, business news, to actually interviewing founders and entrepreneurs that are changing the world. That took off, interviewed people like Mark Cuban, Tim Draper, and we can get into that, a lot of other cool folks. And then just kind of started scaling from there.
Yeah. What was that turning point? Why did you 6 months in start looking at the data and trying to pivot? Why not just keep going? Folks consider podcasts and long form a 3 to 5 year game. So what was that turning point for you?
Yeah, good question. To me, the biggest thing was, one, I actually hated doing it. So like I hated sourcing news. 2, I also didn't feel like I was doing anything different or unique. Like all I was doing is literally taking stuff on CNBC and Wall Street Journal, scraping it, and then just like rewording it. Like there was nothing like really unique that I was doing. And then the third thing is, the thing I got most excited about was actually just being able to meet these people. So I said, okay, instead of talking about them, why don't I just try and meet them? Like what's stopping me? And a lot of people, especially when they're young, they try not to do like really outlandish things because they feel like they have to sit in some sort of box. But literally, you can just do anything you could ever dream of. Like there's literally no rules to life. So I decided like, let's switch it. Let's just email Mark Cuban. I was literally 15. I had no business emailing like a billionaire. And I just did it regardless. He said no the first time and eventually we got him on. But there's no limits. And I found like I had much more fun doing the interviews. So I decided to interview people instead.
When you started out the podcast, when you pivoted to the interviews and the founder side of the journey, who were your first couple guests? Were they just folks you knew? Did you just start out cold DMing the biggest and the best, or how did that start out?
Yeah, I honestly started just cold emailing. The first person I had on was like this like executive business coach, and I didn't know anything about how to interview people. The interview lasted, I'm not even kidding, 9 minutes. It was extremely short. And I literally just had a Google Doc of like 8 or 10 questions, and they were the most shallow questions on the planet. And I just read line line by line by line, each question, no conversation. It was pretty horribly done, to be honest. And that was my first interview. Then from there, I started hearing about startups and founders and then venture capitalists. And I remember one time I was on like a podcast and I was interviewing somebody and I asked them about their business. And he's like, oh yeah, we raised like $4 million and we're VC backed. In the middle of the interview, I'm like nodding my head like I know what VCs are. And I've never heard this term in my life. Yeah. So I'm like Googling what is a VC on my computer, and eventually found that, hey, these are the guys and people that invest in a lot of these businesses to help them grow and hopefully turn them into multi-billion-dollar companies. So I thought, why don't I just like speak with them to see if I can interview their portfolio companies. So start working with VCs to interview their portcos, and then eventually got some big names like the founder of Zillow. I had to follow up with him like 4 times, but founder of Zillow, Tim Draper, and then that snowballed from there.
Nice. Did you feel like having some big names on helped it and made it a lot easier to get follow-on names onto the podcast?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think people, pretty much everything about your career and like life in general is just like, how many brands can you stick on the top of your forehead? So like in this case, when I was 15, there was nothing I could stick on my forehead that made me seem like I was credible. I was a 15-year-old kid. I had nothing to my name. I've never done anything real in life. So the only way I was going to be able to convince people that I was worth talking to is showing that, hey, other people have spoken to me and come on the show. Maybe you should too. And I think once we started getting on startup founders who raised money, then it was easier to get on successful startup founders and people that have exited companies. And then it was easier to kind of go up and climb the ladder from there. So really it was just like racking up names to see how we can leverage those to get other big guests. I think the only way we were able to get Mark on is one, I was like decently young, like I was a teenager. And then 2, I just told him a couple other big names we had on and said, hey, you want to join this list of names? So there was some credibility factor because he's like, okay, if Tim Draper has come on and all these other folks have come on, it's probably somewhat decent. And then third biggest thing is I hinted at value. So I had a post go viral the other day talking about this where the first email I sent, he was like, no. And I asked him to come on to talk about NFTs and blockchain and basically stuff that like he was just talking about at the time, but didn't really care. The second email, I asked him to talk about his recent company, Cost Plus Drugs, and get that into the hands of like millions of people. And I knew that if he reposted the content, like it would definitely reach, and it did. It reached like 1.2 million people. I pitched him as coming on the show for a media play. And that was more like, how can I add value to him and not how can I take from him?
Makes sense. And I think one thing that folks underestimate with just podcasting in general is that it's a very long tail growth channel, right? Like podcasts are not, they're going to pop off and you're going to get listens on every episode, retention throughout the episode. Being 140, 150 episodes in, what's one insight you may have to someone who wants to start out or is earlier in their podcasting journey of how to approach starting a podcast? What matters more? Is it the content? Is it the guest? Is it how you position the content? Or is it impact? Or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think couple things. Podcasts are now super saturated, so it's pretty hard to stand out. But I think if you were to stand out and you were to create one, first is like you have to lean into whatever makes you unique. So what is something about you that most people think is like ridiculous or hilarious or like kind of just absolutely crazy? Whatever that is, lean into it all the way and not a little bit, like literally 10x it. Second, I think it also helps to be like way more controversial than you think you have to, especially when you're in business or talking about business or even anything in general. We had, I think Roy from Cluely says this a lot. It's like, hey, if you want content to go viral, you literally have to be 10 times more controversial than you think. And that's like how we approach content a lot in our media company today. But I think if you can, 1, lean into what makes you unique, 2, be highly controversial, and then 3, also leverage like, Instagram Reels and TikTok and whatnot. But I'd focus a lot on short form clips because those are bigger distribution platforms for sure than long form videos. We've done, like in the last month, we've probably done over 1.2 million views on short form, and then long form, it's probably like 10,000. So I would definitely leverage short form.
Makes sense. Are you very data driven when you think about podcasting growth content?
Highly.
What data matters? What are you looking at? What metrics?
Yeah, if we're talking about like audience engagement, the biggest metric I look at is when people leave. So in YouTube, they give you this graph where you pop in, you see a video, and it shows you at what point in the video are people leaving. And if, for example, very often we'll find, there's actually this company that does this really well now called Jamie, where it will detect where in the video in a podcast, like people are dropping off. And then it will tell you, hey, somebody dropped off because of this, and here's what you can do, and here's what you should have asked instead. And this is like podcast tool. It's epic. I use it all the time, but not sponsored. But anyway, there's figure out where people drop off in the podcast is the biggest thing. and then leverage that to figure out what questions to not ask and what questions to ask. So you can also see when people replay certain things in an episode.
Yeah.
And that means like, okay, those are the very good questions. Maybe push them earlier in so you can maximize like long-term retention. Those are like the biggest things. And then from like, LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, it's just like watch time's honestly the most important thing for sure.
Makes sense. And then in terms of picking the right channel, right? So when you started out, were you cross-posting across every channel and every media platform, or did you start catered on one or two platforms, catered to those formats, and then grew from there?
Yeah, cross-posting is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. Like the way most people do it. So most people, when they think about cross-posting, is I take the same piece of content and put the same piece of content across like 5 different channels. It's not really how you want to do it. Every person and every platform has their own unique way of reaching people. Twitter, highly focused on like short form text. Like you can get something under 300 characters, right? Obviously you can put videos and stuff on Twitter, but the most viral things on Twitter, and videos can do very well on Twitter, but the most viral stuff will not be like a massive long paragraph of text. YouTube, for example, like you're probably not going to clip the same stuff that goes on like Instagram, on TikTok and stuff. You can, but everybody has like different audience segments. Like we've had videos for like Instagram do like millions of views and then do like 1,000 on TikTok. So everybody has a different audience segment. But yes, definitely cross post, but optimize it for every platform.
Makes sense. And then in terms of cutting up clips versus 4 to 10 minute clips versus long form, where do you over index on? Because I've had a couple of podcasters on where I asked them how they think about episodes, and they're like, I'm recording a long form episode, but they don't care as much about putting the long form out there versus they're looking at shorter segments within that. Because the one insight someone gave me once is the average listener may listen to 2 to 3 podcasts a week. And if you're a relatively newer podcaster, not a known name, it's harder for you to get in their weekly list because they already have so much gained loyalty with whoever they listen to. And so for you to end up gaining that loyalty, it takes a long time, multiple clips, multiple formats for you to convert someone from just a clip viewer or a short form viewer to, hey, I'm going to listen to this person relatively regularly.
Yeah, there's a lot of engagement farming you can do. Jack Neal does this really well, where in every clip or a lot of clips, he'll have a guest on. And he'll be like, comment whatever the guest name is, for example, for access. So in this case, if he had, I don't know, somebody named Zach on, it'd be like, comment Zach for the full podcast. So I think there's stuff like that you can do. You typically, that's like the biggest way. And then he'll be like, I'll DM you the full podcast link. So you got to make it feel like it's some level of exclusivity. If you don't have that level of exclusivity, people are just like not going to care enough. They have to make it seem like there's some level, like there's so much value that they're going to get that they might as well comment, right? That's probably the biggest thing that you can use to make sure you can convert people from short form to long form. YouTube, you can link the long form pod. Instagram, like that's the biggest thing that I would do.
Makes sense. Going back to your journey, you started the pod, you pivoted. What was the turning point to starting Deal Room Media and turning this into a business? When did it go from podcast to podcast plus media entity that you have? Yeah.
So I was working for a company called Valley. At the time I was in high school. I think I was a senior in high school, and I helped them on the sales side, helped them get like their first few deals. And I was like, okay, well, how else can we leverage, how else can I help other startups? They were a venture-backed startup, raised like about $1 million from like Jason Calacanis and a couple other folks. I was like, okay, how else can we leverage like media to help other companies grow? So in January of 2024, I was like, well, one, I definitely want to help a lot of other companies and definitely just don't want to work for one business. And then the other is I want to have a lot of the upside. Like at heart, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I just love doing my own thing and doing whatever I want. And I think that definitely stems from like childhood experience I've had. But yeah, I was like, okay, well, why don't I just like do something? So in January, I'm like, let's start an agency. So originally we were doing PR, so helping founders get featured on podcasts, newsletters, publications, etc. Turns out I didn't know anything about PR, absolutely sucked at it. 8 months in, I had like clients were leaving every 2 months, which is really bad. And I still have the screenshot. I had $13.90 left in my checkings account. And I was like, fuck, this is bad. So I approached one of our clients. I'm like, hey, like, can we like write some posts for you on LinkedIn? He's like, I don't know, man. I'm like, please just like give me a shot. And he's like, okay, fine. And we got him like 80K in pipeline in 2 weeks. Nice. And then I was like, holy crap, like LinkedIn's the next big thing. So we pivoted the entire company to LinkedIn. And it only really started taking off about 4 months ago. But until then, it was kind of a flat line of revenue. I was making enough to like buy dinner and stuff like that, but nothing more than that. And then about 4 months ago is when everything completely changed.
What changed 4 months ago?
I dropped out of college. So I took a gap year in between high school and college. That's when I tried to build out the business. It was incredibly stressful. Didn't have a lot of money. Was almost hospitalized because of how much stress I was under. I would literally commute from my parents' house in Jersey into New York City almost every single day. Slept like 4 hours a night. I just really wanted to make it happen. I was pretty miserable. Like my family didn't understand me. My friends didn't understand me for the most part. They knew I was doing something and like going after something, but they didn't understand to the level and why I was doing it at the level I was. Yeah, it was pretty stressful. And then at the end of the summer, like, it's like, okay, I didn't have enough money to not go to college. So I went to college and I was like, it'll probably be good for a social aspect anyway. If you try to talk to me about anything outside of business, I was a brick wall. So it was probably good from like a socialization perspective, high value there. And I was there for a few months and then I'm just like, yeah, I just absolutely hate it. Like I can't just sit in class, like have this teacher tell me what to do when I know like I can make it in the real world. Like,
where were you going to college?
I was going to Villanova. And just wasn't a huge fan of how the education system is built in America today for entrepreneurs. I think it's a failure to a lot of entrepreneurs or people that just want to do incredible things. There's not been one person I've met that has like wanted to start something and do something extraordinary at a young age that feels like college has helped them in any way. Like it just doesn't happen. So I think anybody who wants to be that N=1, college is kind of a waste. And I was like, okay, I'm out. So January, I was on academic probation. My GPA was pretty low. And then I was like, you know what, screw it. Like I'm just out. So I remember it was around April of 2025 this year. And I was like, okay, I want to move to New York. I'm going to move to New York. I told my friends and all my family I'm moving to New York after the summer. I was going to be there for the summer. I didn't tell them how long. And I'm like, I'm going to make the move. Problem is, I didn't have enough money to move to New York. I had like maybe like $4,000 or $5,000 in my bank account. Like probably last 2 months max in the city before I ran out of money. So I'm like, I got to make money. So I start cold DMing dozens of entrepreneurs, asking them to like work with them on LinkedIn content. Eventually I got this one company and I got this one sales call and I treated that sales call like I was going to die if I didn't close that deal. And later that day, they sent me a wire for $5K and I was like, holy shit, this is real. That month we did $12K in revenue and I was like, crap, like this is actually a real thing. And it felt like a lot of money at the time. Turns out that does not go super far when you have a team to pay and software and everything else. But it was enough for me to like move to the city. And then we kind of started kick-starting from there. I think the moment where it really changed though is when I met my group of friends who are all entrepreneurs and running insane businesses. And we all leveled each other up. And that was a moment that like really changed everything.
Nice. I feel like when you find that community where everyone's in a similar mindset, I think it changes a lot for just your approach, because even if it's not you want their advice, it's more a sounding board of like, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm working on. Even just things that they may subconsciously say probably help you think about the problem you're facing a little differently. And I think that that's probably why people say go to New York, go to San Francisco, go to these hubs where people are building, because you're just always in that space and you don't you'll always have that sounding board to work off of.
Yeah, if you want to win, you have to go all in. Like, I think if you're not willing to go all in, you just honestly don't care about winning. Like, you just don't. As much as you tell yourself that you do, you don't. So I think the moment I was willing to go to New York and like risk everything, risk like running out of money, risk like not having any friends, being depressed as hell, like I risked all of that. But I knew that there's a pretty good shot I was able to figure it out. And the second that I did, then I was like, okay, cool, we're on track. And now we're 4 months later, went from literally zero to $1 million business in 4 months, and we're only just getting started.
Nice. How big is the team? And I'm assuming this is the first time you're hiring a team, having employees to pay. What does that journey look like for you, right? So 4 months ago, April, you said you dropped out, you moved here.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm assuming you're a one-person team.
Yeah, one person.
What's that growth look like? What is the team size now? And
we have 4 people on the team right now. One is international, and we're quickly expanding. We hired 2 people in the past month, one of which is over there, who's a legend. And we're kind of scaling the team up from there. So we're hiring another one on the marketing side. And at the end of this year, we should be at around 5 or 6 people. Obviously, want to make sure we grow super efficiently and keep our margins pretty high, but I think we're doing good. So At the end of the year, we should be on track for 5 or 6 people
Nice.
on the team.
Have you ever hired and fired before, led a team before? How do you learn that skill set, or are you just figuring it out?
I'm figuring it out, man. I don't know. I think learning how to hire is something I'm doing right now. Honestly, it helps to have like a lot of entrepreneur friends who all run like businesses like 5 times the size of mine. Some of which are like, have like team members of like 30 or 40 people. They've dealt with hiring and firing people. They've dealt with like managing a team all over the place. They've dealt with like all sorts of problems they've dealt with. And I think having those people really close to me as a guiding force has like enabled me to feel comfortable making the step. So I think I'm figuring it out as I go. Luckily, I think we've had to fire one person. But since then, like it hasn't been anything too crazy.
Nice.
But yeah.
How do you think about client acquisition churn? Because I'm just thinking about this from a SaaS or startup perspective of this is your first time doing this.
Yeah.
How are you preparing to not fall into traps that more commonly folks do fall into?
We honestly just do the opposite of what most people do. Like most people, as they scale, they'll do 2 things. They'll hire and then they'll start taking themselves out of the business and start doing high leverage stuff. I don't do that. I'm still very in the weeds in the business to make sure our quality bar of our deliverables are extremely high. Downside is it's pretty stressful, but I think long-term will pay out. And I think that's the biggest thing that we do to avoid pitfalls. Right now, we have 0 customer churn. We've never had a client leave us to date. So we're doing good on that front. And I think as we scale, we eventually will have churn. But right now we don't. I think there are a couple things you can do from the churn side. Churn only comes down to like 1, a mismatch of expectations, or 2, like maybe they run out of money, more rare, or 3, just lack of communication. 2 of those things you can control for: communication and quality of your service or matching expectations. So we always over deliver whatever we say we will. So a couple things on like the content side. We promise people like, hey, we're going to make X amount of posts for you. A couple of them will go viral and we'll see from there. Typically way more than what we said will go viral, end up going viral. And we end up introducing them to like potential customers, investors, and we try to be like more of a partner to them. And at the monthly return that we're at, that is much higher ROI than just like the content. So we try not to think of ourselves as like a content company.
Makes sense.
We'll pitch ourselves to clients as that, but we end up doing a lot more. So that's one. And I think the other thing is the communication side. Like most agencies, as they scale, they start to become more like a traditional corporate company. Like people are in 9 to 6, people only respond 9 to 6 or 9 to 5 or whatever it might be. And then outside those hours, it's a little quiet. For the most part, I'm still in all of our accounts to some degree. So I'm still responding to clients pretty quickly. Our average response time to a client is under 4 minutes. We have clients that respond to like under 60 seconds. So we're just really fast. I think having that really high touch point shows that you respect them. And I think that's the other big thing that sets us apart. We've had people like literally just stay with us sometimes for like a month. We might not have content that performed pretty well, but they literally told me they stay with us because like they liked how on top of it we are.
Yeah.
So I think those are the 2 biggest things.
One thing that I wanted to dive into is if you could just briefly cover the kind of content and sort of the angle with which you're posting, and then I'll dive into some strategies for how you think about content.
So we do LinkedIn content for B2B founders between Series A and above. So the way we think about content is like, if you want to go viral, yes, you got to be highly controversial, but you also like, you have to find a way to add value to whoever your reader is. And way too many people put out content from the perspective of themselves. Like they just want to talk about themselves. Like most people don't give a fuck about you. They've never heard about you in their life. They just don't care. So you got to figure out like, how do I get somebody else interested? And it's not going to be from talking about you. It's going to be positioning it on how you can help the other person. So a couple things, like one example is like, hey, if I was going to post on LinkedIn today, for example, about like scaling an agency, I'm not going to start it off with, hey, we have X number of people on the team and we're growing and here's our plan. Like nobody cares. I would start it from, hey, we scaled from 0 to $1 million in 4 months in ARR. Here's our exact playbook that we did. And then go step by step, because now everybody wants to see like how we were able to do that. So I think you got to position value. You got to make it clear. You got to be super concise. Don't use any large corporate jargon terms. Like most people, like most of the time, most of how school teaches you to write is like, they literally tell you this, like you have to have 10 pages or you have to minimum page requirement. It's better to get your message across in as little words as possible and as easily as possible. There's a reason why people like Warren Buffett write still in the 6th grade reading level. It's because the more people that understand them, the more people can invest, the more his message will reach. Same thing here. If you can convey your message as simply and as concisely as possible, more people hear about you, more people understand about you, and therefore, it'll have a bigger impact.
When you say value, what should someone think about? So let's say B2B founders listening to this and they want to start writing controversial takes, but to your point, you said the reader has to get value out of it, right? So how should someone think about value? What are different ways that you bucket and think about value? Because value could be a playbook. Value could be, I learned something. Value could be some insight into a space or industry. How do you think about value in this case?
Yeah, so I think value, the biggest way that I think about it really comes down to like, what are you selling, right? So like in this case, if I'm selling LinkedIn content, I'm going to start telling people some of our tips on how we go viral on LinkedIn. If I'm selling like something totally different, maybe I'm selling like payroll for companies, maybe I start talking about the most frequent payroll mistakes that have cost companies a lot of money. Or if I'm selling like something around taxes, maybe I start talking about like the biggest tax savings and tax hacks that you can use as an entrepreneur. Just figure out whatever you're selling and give away 20% of that for free. And then people are super like against this a lot of people are against this for the most part because like, oh no, then they won't buy. They're not going to buy anyway, right? So like most people won't. So you got to get them to trust you first. And the only way you can do that is help them without asking for anything in return.
100%. Do you think having an audience as a B2B founder gives you a bigger edge over other B2B
Way bigger.
founders?
It's like a massive competitive mode. Like we've seen companies and that we've worked with, and we can't say it's directly because of LinkedIn, but it definitely helps, that have grown way faster after working with us and dominated way more of a market category. We have a company that we're working with is now the fastest growing AI company in their industry, literally a couple months after working with us. So yeah, it's definitely a huge advantage. And then also, like the more people you know your name, the more people that are talking about you, the more you get around, and the more you talk about how successful you are, people are inherently just ending up going to continue to talk about you. And that's just going to help your brand. It's going to help you get in front of more people and then help you scale and sell more too.
Makes sense. So you said talking about you as a founder is not as important as the value you're providing in that. Yeah. What's your take on sort of putting yourself out there and building a founder brand versus using your personal LinkedIn to build your company's brand or the business that you're selling? Is there a difference there? Should someone think about this differently, or is it all one holistic top of the funnel brand that you're building?
Yeah. So honestly, you can do a mix. Like what we do with founders is we do like, typically we split it. So we test it on their audience, but typically we'll do like 20 to 40% of their posts are focused on like their story. And then, a key takeaway or lesson that they have. And then 60-ish% of the content will be focused, because we're focused on pipeline, will be focused on like advice that they have to their target customer, tactics, frameworks, customer stories, stuff like that. And then you can pretty much mix it however you want, but you definitely need a good mix. And I think that will help.
Does a post need to go viral to have positive conversion into potential clients?
No. Yeah. We've had what's strange is we've had some of our most viral posts do the worst for pipeline, and our least viral posts do the best for pipeline. Yeah. And I'll explain exactly why that happens. One, when you have something that goes viral, plus side is you reach a lot of people, downside is you reach a lot of people, meaning you end up going really, really broad. And the problem with going really broad is you're not really targeting who your target customer is. So yeah, a lot of people engage, but most of them are not going to be your target customer. Great thing with going narrow is you just narrow down how many people can engage with your content, so you probably won't go viral. Upside is everybody who does see your content is probably within your customer base anyway. We've had posts that do like thousands of engagements get zero pipeline. And then we've had posts with like 80 engagements do like 6 figures in pipeline. So pipeline is like a little bit different than virality. They serve 100%. Different purposes.
What do you think about ICP? What does an ICP mean to you? Should someone listening to this starting out on LinkedIn, should they really care about honing in on their ICP and who their ICP is and then crafting content around that? Or does that not matter in today's age of distribution?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is regarding ICP. It should literally just be who your target customer is. So in this case, is that what your question is? So
in terms of like when I'm making content, traditionally a lot of the advice online has been find content pillars, find your ICP, understand who your customer is, and then start catering content to target this customer, right? So my question is more, should that really matter? Because my understanding of content nowadays is you could get distribution and you could go viral, even though you're not talking about the same audience, the same topic, the same brand value all the time.
Yeah. So I think, you can definitely go viral talking about different things. I would highly suggest you definitely write towards your ICP. I think it makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of downside to that, but you can definitely talk about other things as long as it's somewhat integrated to what you're doing. But I'd say most of it should be somewhat related to your ICP. Yeah, most of your content should be at least targeted. If your idea is pipeline generation, yeah. If you're just trying to go viral, then yeah, you can talk about a lot of different things. But remember, people have a very, like you said earlier, people have a very limited attention span. So you really just want to be known as like one guy. Like Justin Welsh, for example, he's a big like solopreneur. Yeah. He's known as the solopreneur guy. Like you just want to know what your guy or girl tag is and just be that.
Makes sense. I like that. One thing I wanted to get your take on is to any B2B founder who's listening right now and starting out, what are 3 things that they should be doing right away to optimize their LinkedIn for pipeline generation?
Yeah. Biggest thing, 3 things. First, literally just get up out of your chair and walk around and start talking to yourself. And what I mean by that is literally open up a voice memo and start talking about your story. Think of the craziest things that have ever happened to you. Just ramble for like 30 minutes. Doesn't matter if it's constructed, concise or whatnot. After you have that, transcribe it, upload it to ChatGPT and ask it for the best stories from this. That will get you a lot of good stuff. Second, if you want more pipeline, a couple different things. 1, find out who your target customers are, engage with them on LinkedIn. That's easy. And 2, figure out like what questions are they asking? Like what questions pop up most in sales calls? What are the biggest problems that your customers are facing? What are the biggest ways that you've helped them? Create content around all of that. Anything that's happening internally around your customers and have anything to do with your customers, you can create content on. And then the third thing is figure out what other people are doing in your space and then just do it a little bit better from the content side. So if somebody is talking about team growth, you can maybe talk a little bit about team growth, but you also get a little bit more tactical than them. So definitely kind of act like a spy and just figure out what other people in your space are doing and then just do it. I'll execute on it 2 times better.
Makes sense. What's your tactic or strategy for getting content ideas or just understanding what's going on, what's trending, what's not trending?
Yeah, trending and not trending. Twitter is a big thing. We just figure out what people are talking about. We follow a lot of newsletters that are within our clients are like connected to. So somebody's in fintech, we'll follow a lot of fintech newsletters. We'll follow their newsletter and competitor newsletters, stuff like that. Those are like the 2 biggest ways that we'll source content, and then also stuff from like LinkedIn and whatnot. But yeah. What's
your take on evergreen content versus topical in the moment content?
Yeah, I think topical in the moment content can actually do quite well. Like especially from a pipeline perspective, we have a recruiting company, AI recruiting company that we work with that talked about like a really topical topic a few months ago. And it blew up. It got like 100 engagements, but it got a couple hundred comments and a lot of leads. So if you can leverage something, but the problem with topical thing is you have to take a very different take on it. So whatever the natural take is, you have to do something completely different.
Yeah.
If you're not able to do that, don't even write it. Don't even bother. But if you're able to take whatever people are saying and think of a totally different spin on it, definitely do topical stuff.
Makes sense. Do you have an opinion on multiple posts, trying different formats, same thing in different time zones, different times of the day, or does quality matter over?
Quality matters 10 times more important. People ask me about like, oh, when should I post? How often should I post? Like 90% of that stuff is not really that important. Like, yeah, once a day. Yeah, if you're on LinkedIn during the weekday. Outside of that, like we've had posts that we post out at like 10 p.m. go viral, and then also posts that we post out at like 4 a.m. go viral. Like all hours of the day. Like we've never had an issue with that. As long as you have great content, LinkedIn will push it because they want people to stay on their platform, or any platform will. And yeah, it will do well. So don't over obsess over it. That's not really that important.
One more just tactical piece before we go back to your journey. What tool set are you using? How are you tracking? How are you managing metrics?
Yeah.
How are you engaging with comments, getting pipeline from there? And what does your conversion tactic look like?
Yeah, we leverage Notion. Every one of our clients is in a mutual Slack channel. So ourselves, we assign a writer to the account, and then also our clients are in the account. So Slack is good. Notion we use to like put all of our drafts in, all of our media assets, all of our stuff going there. We have a database for every client. And then third is we have Plannable, which is a content scheduling tool. We use that. We put the posts in there. You can kind of see what the post will look like before they go live. And then you can kind of approve and schedule them and add in comments in there. Those are honestly our biggest tools that we use in our tech stack. And yeah, those are the biggest things. From a comm side, it's just like Slack and iMessage.
Nice.
And yeah.
Quickly going back to your journey, you've been on sort of this hyper growth trajectory, right? So as someone who started the company, CEO of the company, what are you thinking about in terms of what do you need to plan for over the next couple of months outside of those couple of key roles that you're hiring for? How do you think about growth, strategy, building systems, making sure that you're building in a scalable way and not just going towards those bigger deals?
Yeah. I think the biggest way that we're able to detect that we're building in a scalable way is just comes down to like how our customers treat us. Like if our customers are on our asses all the time, we're not doing our job well. And that ultimately is a fault of me. And I think as long as our customers are like, yeah, this is great, this is doing well, love the work, like we can just keep scaling. Like there's no issue. Like in late August, early September, we had a problem where we added too much. We grew way too fast and we didn't have like the bandwidth to take it on. And we had clients, slacking us and be like, hey, you dropped the ball on this. This is a little slow. Like eventually we figured it out, got some people on the team, and then built up that system. And then we just had a client message us the other day. It's like, actually, you guys have been killing it. Like, keep crushing it because I love the system. So I think for now, like, eventually we want to be able to hire before we have to get to the point where we're like underwater. It sucks to build a company where you're constantly underwater and then hiring to fix that and then going underwater again. Like, I prefer to not do that. But I think, as we build out our cash balance, it's just going to be a lot easier to hire people before we have the demand. And that's what we're doing right now.
Is there any parts of the business that you're worried about that you don't know enough about? So I also run a similar service company on the tech side. And some things that I feel like I've never truly spent the time to understand is like the accounting, finance, bookkeeping side of the business. Yeah. Where I feel like understanding that is super important for me to also understand, how do I grow? How much cash do I have to grow? Yep. Where can I spend marketing, not spend marketing? At some point, team growth and team events are going to need to be a thing because you want to build the right culture. Yeah. So are you thinking about any of these things? Do any of these things worry you as someone who's just started out?
Yeah, I think they didn't worry me 2 or 3 months ago. As we've had a lot more volume of, just cash moving in and out of the business, I've had to be way more diligent on tracking everything. A lot of cash moving in and out, and you're not tracking it. Like one deal or one missed deal or one extra hire could completely
or one delayed invoice.
Right, or one, it could wreck your company. So we spend a lot of, not a lot, but every weekend I kind of go through the cash flow balance and what we have in the bank and how much runway we would have, we would have, like, assuming we just got every client fired us, like how long could we last? Obviously that probably would never be a situation that would happen. But take a look at those things. I presume every month, by the way, when we're growing out the business and taking a look at like an outlook and forward-looking perspective to make sure we don't overspend, I presume we never close new deals. So whatever we did the month before, I presume we'll not close any additional deals the next month. And anything we do close, great. But I'm not banking on those new deals to anything to close, which allows us to run the business in a way where we're just always like, we just always have enough cash to handle whatever we do grow. I think now that's starting to become a thing where we're going to have to start investing before that happens, because otherwise we'll just be always behind the 8 ball. But yeah, I do spend a lot of time taking a look at the accounting and running the business by the books.
One book I'd recommend is Profit First, if you haven't read that. I think the system has some faults, but I think it's a really good starting point to just understanding how to manage bank balances, different cash flows, because being in a service industry, you're always at the helm of a client. It's not like a product where you can just put marketing money and it turns out. And so I feel like that's one caveat to running a service business, where your time is only so much skill. Like you can only make so much top line revenue with the amount of time and writers and hours you have to spend. It's not an infinite relationship or expansion there. So yeah, that's one thing I don't like about service businesses per se, even though I run one. But still,
they're tough businesses and traditionally low margin businesses. We've gotten to the fact where we're not super low margin, but yeah, they're definitely difficult businesses.
Makes sense. How do you think about scale in terms of, would you rather stick to a certain smaller number of clients, increase your monthly retainer, or would you rather be on a lower retainer and have more clients? How do you think about that sort of equation?
Yeah, our retainer is decently high, but we still get like a lot of clients closing on it. So maybe that's a sign that we have to bump it up. Yeah. But typically I just try to make a retainer so that I believe that's how much value they'll get. So I don't really want to bump it unless I feel like we can add more value at that price point. So I know Alex Ramosi does the whole thing. It's like, add an extra 0 to whatever you think you're going to sell and just see how much pushback. Maybe I just need to get better at like doing a better job at like just bumping our prices up. But for the most part, I just keep it pretty equal.
Nice. Whose content do you follow? Who are you looking up to? Who do you take advice from or
Stephen Bartlett's great. Jay Hoovy is great. He runs a company called Stan. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a couple others that are really good. Those are honestly the big ones. Tanae, who runs a company called Whisper Flow, has a lot of good LinkedIn content. Yeah, some good ones.
Nice. What do you think about your own content? Are you building the business behind you as a brand? Are you trying to build it as its own brand, not necessarily tied to, or What does that look like for you?
Yeah, we're trying to build it. I mean, I think I want everybody in our company to have their own brands associated with the company. I like to a degree being the face of it, but I don't think it, like if we're going to expand to the level I want to, I want every single person to have their own brand to be very established. I want everybody to know their name. I don't want people to just be like, oh yeah, Shamus does LinkedIn. I want people to know like everybody on our team.
Makes sense.
And know our team very well. It's kind of similar to what like Ryan Serhant did. With Serhant is he, started his real estate company, primarily built off the backs of media. They do billions of dollars in volume a year. And every one of his real estate agents has their own personal brand.
Makes sense.
And I want to do the exact same thing, but for our business.
It's funny you say that. I had a guest on in Austin. He runs a B2B positioning company, and him and his partner together created 1.5 million ARR business just based off their 2 LinkedIns. They just started hiring, and I was talking to him the other day, and I was asking him, how do you think about hiring people who have their own brands? Because at some point, it makes more monetary sense for them to go out and do what they're doing for you, but for themselves. And so that's one risk that he said we have to constantly think about incentive structure for folks within our company who are doing the same thing they're doing. But as they build out their brand, it has to make sense for them to still work with us and not spin off into their own entity. So that was an interesting
I think people overestimate like how often people would actually spin off. It is incredibly difficult to build a business. Like
100%.
Most people like they're just not fit for it. Like they just aren't, or they just don't want to do it. And which is also totally cool. Like for me, like I think it would be great like for people to, make a good salary and just like absolutely live their lives. Like you should just do whatever makes you happy. But I think most people just like entrepreneurship's just not a thing that excites them. It's probably not a good thing. And then also, by the way, I had a friend of ours who actually had this exact same thing happen to him, where he had 3 of his employees leave, start a competing business. 2 months later, they went all pushed big on LinkedIn, on Instagram. 2 months built out a brand. 2 months later, they come back and ask for their jobs back. I think most people don't realize how difficult it is. And yes, you can build a brand, but incentive structure, I guess, matters. But I think if you're actually the best, like people are really just not going to leave.
Makes sense, because you have systems dialed in so they can focus on what they're good at and not worry about all these other pieces of hiring, firing, getting invoices paid.
Yeah. And also like people, when they leave, for the most part, people are not going to leave because they think they can make an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. It's not enough for most people to 100%. Like burn it. For the most part, it might be a couple of different things, but money's definitely not the primary one. It might be like the team's not great or the culture isn't great or anything like that. So, as we're scaling, I want to make sure like our culture is like awesome, where we all work super hard and we also just have a fuckload of fun. Like we just do crazy stuff. Eventually maybe we'll just like all just go in a helicopter, like just do crazy stuff just for fun.
Nice.
So I think that's how I think you're able to maintain that. And imagine like going from that, where you have a team who's like, are all in the trenches together, you're all building, and then you're all having a lot of fun together. And then you leave your own, and then now you're just like sitting in your closet all day. Like it seems kind of depressing. So as long as you can make it a fun working environment, then I think you're good.
Nice. How do you think about the podcast along with Deal Room Media, right? So is podcast still top of funnel for you, or what does that look like in terms of the holistic?
I gotta get better with the show. Maybe I'll have these guys run it at this point, because we did not pumping out enough. We're doing like once every 2 months. It's just been kind of put on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
We just haven't had the bandwidth, but we want to do more. It doesn't do a lot for top of funnel, but I do enjoy it. So I think we could
100%.
definitely do more.
I think the biggest part of the podcast for me is I'm able to have deep conversations with folks that I normally wouldn't have the opportunity to do. So a lot of that is why I initially started, but I think it's also just a great content brand to build out over time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
What's giving you the most stress right now in building the company?
Scaling the team. Stressful. I think you have clients breathing up and down your back that are like, hey, like we got to get this stuff done. You're working 16-hour days. Like you physically can't work anymore without killing yourself, like without dying. Like it's just a lot. And then also like you want to make sure the team's happy, you grow, they're incentivized correctly. They know like most people are joining us not because they're going to get the highest pay and the best benefits. It's because they believe that the company will actually be really big. Yeah. And I want to make sure they're incentively aligned with that. There are a lot of entrepreneur friends of mine that are like, oh yeah, like they'll like brag about being able to hire somebody super cheap, and like, yeah, that's great, but unless you're like, no, you're going to give them a lot of incentive down the line, I think it's a really bad model. Like, cool, if you want to hire somebody at like $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year in New York, great, but like, you better damn well make sure that you tell them that they're going to, get incentivized down the line if they crush it for you. And I think if they see that the business is crushing and they're not going to get rewarded for it, they're just not going to stay.
100%. Do you have an opinion on onshore versus offshore? I know
I actually have a big opinion on this. I'm very big into onshore. I think way too many people have started building out offshore businesses. I think it's causing them to, one, move slower because their entire team is in different time zones. Two, they just iterate a lot slower. Two, I think the quality will go down. And then I think, especially in the near term. And I think three, the culture just isn't there. Like, you're not going to build like a super fun or great company. Maybe you don't care, but like for me, I care a lot about that. And I think if you want to build like a really great long-term sustainable business, it's not going to come from like having a really big remote team. Like
100%.
For the most part, like maybe some people like just love sitting in their apartment all day and just like waking up, going to their desk and just like not having to move anywhere. Like that would drive me miserably insane. So I prefer to have our entire team in person. And eventually, as we scale, we'd continue to love to have that in person. But I'm big on onshoring. I think it speeds up the pace of iteration. I think our quality is just a lot better. And I think it does a lot better from a culture perspective. It's more expensive in the short term, but I think it will do good for the long term of the business.
100%. Because I feel like over the last year or two, I've seen so many hire a VA here, do social media here, someone in Argentina, someone in South America, Philippines. And there's like a big push to constantly find cheaper talent, but I think all of that comes at the cost of the culture and the fun. Like, you can build out good teams in these individual places, but if you're here and you're not going and spending a lot of time with them, I feel like there's always going to be some disconnect with who's on your team.
Like, there's a good chance you can find some incredible people remotely. My VA is in the Philippines. He's an absolute beast. But there are also people that, like, for the most part on how they hire, they're going to get B quality talent and they're going to pay a little bit less. And it's like, okay, do you want to build like a B level company? And I think most people are like okay with the bare minimum or whatever's average, and not enough people are pushing the bar on like getting people to do like really exceptional things. I think if you're hiring offshore, it shouldn't be because like, oh, it'll be cheaper and they'll still be able to do good work. It should be not only could they be cheaper, but they'll also deliver really exceptional work. And I think if you're not able to get A+ talent offshore, do not hire offshore.
Nice. I like it. Give me your top 3 controversial takes. You help a lot of founders, right?
Jesus.
Okay. What are your 3 controversial takes? It could be about anything: LinkedIn, podcasting, building a business, whatever you want.
I don't know if I have 3. I can give you 1 though. People nowadays are really soft, like super soft. And I think especially most students graduating college are very soft. Like they don't care. They don't work very hard. They haven't learned a lot. And I think if you want to win, especially early in your career, a lot of people talk about work-life balance. You should not care about work-life balance. Like you should, especially like if you're in like your early 20s, I think you should really just care about like winning, at least for a couple of years. Like for the most part, maybe this is just a me thing. But I think if you want to, depends on the life you want to have. Now, if you're cool with like having a decent life, cool, fine. But if you really want to win to the top 1%, so many people, especially online, give the perception that they're operating at a top 1%. They pose with like them in Italy or them next to a sports car. Most of the time, they're not actually operating to the outer limits of their potential. So I think most people are just playing it too soft and are not willing to give it their all. And they're going to lose.
Nice. I like that. And when you say soft, do you mean offended easily or just sort of, 80% on everything?
80% on a lot of things. Yeah. They say they work 100% and then we'll actually give 80%.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that. Before we wrap up, just have a couple.
Think about it this way. Like if somebody came to you and was like, hey, this is really extreme, but if your whole family's going to die if you didn't hit this objective, I'm pretty sure you'd be able to hit the objective.
100%.
Like if you came to me and you were like, hey, you're going to die if you don't build a $5 million business in 12 months, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to figure it out. So I think most people just don't have the fire burning under the
100%.
belly or burning under them to push themselves to the outer.
100%. I agree. I think a lot of it is also when you're going into these things, I feel like not everyone's risk-taking appetite is the same, but I also feel like sometimes they're in it for the wrong reason, right? So a lot of younger founders want to build a company because they read these headlines of the dropout selling for 100 million, or this person raised 20 million out of Stanford. And they're chasing that headline.
They love
and that
the
title,
idea of the game, but they don't love the game itself.
Yeah, because they don't understand the true part of the game, right? And then the founder I had on yesterday, he's like, we be willing to spend at least 10 years on this, and you may or may not be successful.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to be in it for 10 years, it's probably not worth it.
I mean, I was doing it for close to half a decade without making any money. So like, I was clearly ready to go all 10 if I needed to. So I think more people just got to be willing to put in the extra mile.
Nice. I like that. I have just a couple rapid fire questions. We'll try to cut them up into shorts and stuff. But what's the one email subject line that has gotten people to respond to your cold DMs?
16-year-old top podcast host, want to come on. It's like a big one.
Do you still use that even though you're 19?
No. Well, that was a big one back then. I just switched it based off age. But yeah, mentioning my age works.
Yeah. What's the biggest lie young entrepreneurs tell themselves?
That they're good at what they do. Most people are not good at what they do. They sit on the computer, they start building stuff, they show off to everybody how good they are, and they actually suck. Like, the product sucks, the content sucks, and like if you tell them that, they'll just really like rebel against you. And I think most of them are way too focused on like trying to prove to people that they're right instead of actually trying to build something great. Ryan Serhant has this really good quote that if you spent, especially with young people, if you spent half your time, the time that you spend to try to get noticed, if you spent just half of that time trying to be great, you'd be so great that everybody would have to notice you.
100%.
A great quote by Ryan Serhant in Owning Manhattan. And I think way too many people are trying to get people to notice them. You just really should just try to be great. And people will be, if you're so great, people will notice you.
Nice. I like that. What's the difference between networking and partnering?
Networking is like the dumbest term I've ever heard of. Like, most people, when they think of networking, they think of shake hands, exchange LinkedIn's, like it's way too transactional. Partnering is where you figure out, hey, how else can I help this person in their business? The way I think about partnering now is I really don't think too much about what they can do to help me. I just try to figure out how many people I can help. And hopefully some of that good karma comes back
100%.
on me.
I agree with that.
So I think forget about networking, throw it out the window. Anytime you're in a conversation, instead of asking people like what they do or for their LinkedIn, just figure out a little bit of info on them and figure out how you can help them, and then pitch that to them, because people, that's way more genuine and it'll do you way more value in the long term.
Has your age ever come in question when you're closing a sales call, and how do you justify that to a B2B founder who's in their mid to late 30s, early 40s?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, not often. It doesn't really come up that often, but people do. For the most part, it's actually a good thing. A lot of founders are like, oh shoot, he's really young, he's really getting after it. I've closed many deals just from being young itself and being like really hustle, because they respect that and they know what it's like to be that. Every once in a while, you'll get some like old head who's like, who's this like 19-year-old kid like doing this. And I just show them the results and then they eventually just shut up. But yeah, for the most part, you just got to let the results speak for themselves.
Nice. What's the worst business advice you've ever been given about running a business?
School teaches you how to run a company. It does not. Doesn't tell you anything about how to run a company. The best way to learn is learn from people who have actually built successful businesses, be in those businesses, be very close to them, and then build one yourself. You want to learn how to build a big business or build a company, don't get an MBA. It's a waste of time. Like, just go directly into the workforce. You'll learn way more and way faster than doing anything in formal education. If
you don't know something, what's your source or path to go figure that out and learn it?
Google, ChatGPT, like super easy. If you don't know something, you can learn anything you want on the internet. Like, too many people are playing it half-ass, where they'll be like, oh, like, hey, like I want to build an app, but I haven't learned how to program yet. So let me take some programming classes first. Like, why don't you just Google like, hey, how do I build an app? Like 100%. Google, ChatGPT, they're your best friends. Use them to your best advantage.
And you've probably answered this on the episode, but what's your one LinkedIn strategy that helps drive pipeline for founders?
Biggest thing is hint at about like 20% of value. 20% of how you give value to founders, give it away for free. Give it in the hook, hint at it, and then deliver on that value, and don't ask for anything in return.
Nice. I like that. Well, I know we had a hard stop. I appreciate you coming on. I think that was a pretty solid 55 minutes.
Thanks for having me.
Where should someone listening find you? What do you want to plug? Who should reach out? And we'll link everything and stuff for you. But
yeah, I mean, dealroom.media is our website. And you can find me on LinkedIn or anywhere else. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.